Nothing like it ever before. They're both alive. Not one, but two of the most terrifying creatures ever loosed on man. Godzilla raids again.
Dun, dun, dun.
Welcome back to Entertainment Rebooted, specifically Cinema Rebooted, Godzilla. I am joined by my... I need to come up with, I have esteemed co-hosts and I have the ever popular, ever famous. What title would you like, Pat, that I introduce you with?
That's a lot of power to give me.
That is a little too much power. Maybe it is a little too much power.
The overpowered.
The overpowered.
Yeah.
Always entertaining. Pat. Say hi, Pat.
Hi, Pat.
All right, Pat, we watched Godzilla Raids again. Give us a brief synopsis, then we'll get into the good, the bad, the ugly, the iconic, and then talk about what we would do to make this for a modern audience. So, take it away, Pat.
As always, starts in Japan. So there's a trend there, isn't there?
Oh, it's almost as if they were made by Toho and a Japanese company.
Yeah, I know. Never would have guessed. Another fishing.
Yeah.
It's always fishing.
I mean, it's the most important industry in Japan.
Yeah. Always gotta eat them fish.
Always.
Fishing play and spotting fish. Spot Godzilla in the water. Actually, plane crashes. Go to island. Godzilla. But he's not alone. Today we have Anguirus.
It's true. Anguirus was what they called him, yeah?
Anguirus?
Anguirus?
Anguirus. It was like
it was
like Agranosaurus.
Yeah, and then they gave it a nickname on top of that, where it's like,
yeah,
Anguirus, yeah. So Anguirus.
Yeah. There we go. Back to the synopsis.
Buffering.
Reported to the newly formed Godzilla Task Force. Yeah, they made one.
Had to.
Either know they killed the Godzilla.
They did.
Their worst fears come true, and there is another. And as we said, not alone. They prepare for Godzilla to make land, knowing that all mortal weapons are useless against him. And their saving hope, the Oxygen Destroyer, never to be seen again.
As its original creator had sacrificed himself in the first film.
Yes.
So he succeeded. Nobody else could create such a device, but unfortunately they need such a device.
Yes. Fight on land, Anguirus.
Yeah.
Anguirus.
Yeah.
Anguirus defeated. Godzilla goes back to sea, satiated. Some rivalry. Fishing resumes. But Godzilla is back again. For blood.
Was he back for blood?
No.
They find him and then they chase him down to an island and he's just standing there.
Godzilla resting on an island being like, sheesh. I just swam a lot. Here's a nice little cove for me to hang out in. Oh no, here comes the planes. Ba-boom!
Pretty much. Yeah,
he was minding his own business. And then we're just like, oh shit. Godzilla, no!
So one of the main characters comes in, finds him, tries to distract him so that the task force can come in with its aircraft and its wall of fire, sacrifices himself bravely, and then they're like, bro, avalanche. That's how we're going to defeat Godzilla.
Yep, we're going to bury Godzilla in snow and rock and ice.
They proceed to launch about 50,000 missiles and bombs
from a very surprising amount of airplanes that just show out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And then they're never seen again.
Mm-hmm.
Just fully loaded plane comes in, fires its load, and boop.
Yeah, pretty much. We end the film with him buried in ice and snow and them mourning the loss of their friend, and then credits.
Yeah.
This film really is kind of odd because it's like it has rising action, then the climax, the stereotypical climax, is very early in the film.
It is.
There's like a huge lull in the
that
middle.
You forget that it's even a Godzilla. Yeah.
You start kind of forgetting it's a Godzilla movie, and then it's just like, oh wait, no, Godzilla happened again. There's 2 climaxes. Let's defeat Godzilla.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those films. It's not what you would expect from a Godzilla movie. Let's get into it though. Good. What is the good?
Still very, very good prop and modeling work.
Yeah.
Godzilla looks a little rougher than the first one.
Yeah.
But still decent.
Yeah.
Anguirus, they put a lot of work into that, you can tell. Which seems a little funny for how long he was on screen.
He wasn't really on screen for that long, but nope. I mean, I guess it makes sense because, like, it's a man in a suit and he has to be on all fours for the majority of the time. That has to be really hard to, do.
I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you that.
Yeah. Props to the prop department. The modeling pretty good. Yeah. For me, I'd say the design of Anguirus.
Anguirus.
We have like very poor memory, so please forgive us. But
we're never gonna say it right. So
well, and
just live with it.
That's true, and it's also in Japanese, and they very rarely say the name, and like they literally are like shouting Godzilla all the time, Gojira, and so it's like very obviously iconic that you can remember him, but this other creature is only in the film for like a third of it, maybe.
I mean, like half an hour almost.
Yeah.
Like this is like the big setup, and then just like he defeated him.
Yeah, he dies kind of anticlimactically.
Very anticlimactically.
But the design's good. I actually really liked the design. The thing that they were talking about with it, where he's obviously another dinosaur that's been irradiated, so he's huge.
Yeah.
And the thing is, though, that he has like a bunch of spikes on his back.
So many spikes.
And he looks kind of like one of those dinosaurs that have the club on the back, but the shell.
Yeah.
I'm not good with dinosaurs. It has been a long time since I was into paleontology.
It starts with arc something.
Yeah.
If you know what it is, tell us in the comments.
Drop it in the comments.
Tell us how poorly we are pronouncing these paleontological words. And I know I just did that one terrible too, so that's a free one.
We are not professionals.
In any sense of the word.
True. No. But I'd say the design overall is pretty good. Like, he's interesting, and the fact that his brain is like in his back, so he's more agile.
Yeah.
I thought was like, it's an interesting build, it's an interesting concept, but I can understand why they would have a difficult time filming it. But the idea of the creature is actually really, I'd say that's the good.
That's definitely something they could, if it was to be made again, you could definitely expand upon with modern technologies.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Technologize that we have today.
Yep. All right. What about the bad? What's not like awful, but bad?
For it being a Godzilla movie, it really loses Godzilla.
Yeah.
He's there, but like he becomes an afterthought quite a few times.
It does feel like he's just kind of thrown into the second half of the film just because, for the sake of, let's wrap up Godzilla.
This Godzilla.
Yeah, let's try to give an end to him.
Yeah.
But it feels very thrown in.
Yeah.
So
it loses its heart.
Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of along the lines of my bad. I would say that it doesn't feel like an adequate sequel to the first film.
Not.
Like, the first film was fantastic.
The first film was just so substantial.
Yeah, it was gut-wrenching. It had very great plot points. It had huge emotional points.
Oh, yeah.
Captivating throughout the entire film. This one feels like it just kind of got lost. Where
it's like they were making one film already, And then they're just like, you know what this film needs? Godzilla. Let's just throw him in there a couple times.
Yeah, maybe something like they threw him in, or they started filming it. They'd written it, but then they saw how unpractical the fight was between the two kaiju, and they were like, "Well, we kind of threw him in and hinted him a little too early, and it's not an adequate enough fight to like wrap it up. So let's throw in filler. Let's fill up the hour and a half." It kind of feels like they had an idea and it only took them 30 minutes to film it, and they were like, we gotta actually kind of figure this out. So I'd say that's that's the bad. It's not very good as a sequel, and it's because Godzilla himself gets lost.
I don't think it would really be that good as a standalone either, though.
Well, it's true. Like it's
like there's certain sequels that if they were not a sequel, they'd be a decent standalone.
Yeah, and that's actually a good sign of a good sequel. Like Shrek 2 could stand alone as a standalone film, but it does benefit from being a sequel. It's an adequate
It's
sequel.
got that backup. It's got that history built in that allows you to advance farther.
Right. Star Wars, the Empire Strikes Back could stand alone on its own, but it benefits from being a sequel. That's kind of the thing, is like a sequel, you have to have it where it needs the first one to be fully realized and fleshed out, but it could stand alone on its own if it was necessary to do that.
Which is something they missed the mark on this one.
Yeah, it's not nearly as good as the first one, which is very
it's a tall order to fill. Because
I mean, the first one is just the entire film was iconic.
Yeah, so just majestic.
It was. It's a beautiful film. Makes you shed a tear. Get back in there. All right. How about ugly? So we kind of talked about the bad, but is that the ugly? Like, what is actually the ugly you warn people about of this film?
This one suffers kind of the opposite problem, like I said, of the first film, where the first film, there's not a lot of human character built. Like, you have them, like, you feel for them, but like you're also just like, you can get over them. This one builds so much more on, like, it almost completely focuses on the human characters,
to the point where literally halfway through the film, when they take over the entire story, you kind of forget it's a Godzilla film.
And that's kind of the part you would warn people about, like, hey, this is Godzilla, but you're not gonna see a lot of him.
I'd have to say the model work is good. Like, they do a very good job. Like, the majority of the model work is fantastic, but I would say the ugly is like probably the model work when it comes specifically to like their aircraft and stuff. Because
the numbers,
they have the same numbers. They're reusing the same shot like 7, 8, 10, 12 times.
I mean, the bombing run at the end is literally just
and it's the same shot, and it's the same thing that they're doing the same thing over and over and over again, and they're even showing the same explosions and stuff, which the explosions are fantastic. But when you've seen it 4 times,
you gotta change up the order a bit.
You have to change up the order. You have to change up how they're doing it. But also, the modeling was inconsistent with the aircraft, because they had like U.S. Air Force aircraft with the tanks on the ends of the wings. I forget. They're not the Starfighters. They're the ones that preceded the Starfighters.
Completely out of my wheelhouse knowledge.
I'm sorry. I'm a big Air Force military nut.
What?
So
No, never would have guessed.
Never. Impossible. But it's like some of the second gen fighters are shown on the screen when they're like flying in their formations. But then it goes back to like first gen fighters with the MiGs and the Sabers, where it's swept wing with the cockpit. But the farther out shots are of these like second generation fighters with the tanks on the edges of the wings. So there's just that huge inconsistency. And then obviously when they have the zoomed in shot, they actually numbered the aircraft. So it's the same aircraft, if you're paying attention, doing the same
Every
action every
time.
single time. So I just say that that's probably the big ugly of it. Is it's just continuity when it comes to their modeling was not, and it's ugly because of how good it was in the last film.
Yeah, the
Like,
last film was, they did a really good job of, you don't, like, there's not, like, really identifying marks.
yeah, there's not identifying
Like,
marks.
you can kind of tell they're supposed to be, but you're not able to actually identify what they are.
Right. And it's also a thing too, if they were right with their continuity. The models in the close-ups matched the outside shots. They fit the time period. They fit what they were trying to show and accomplish.
Yeah.
This one, it's just, it kind of falls apart, and it's not even done well enough that just a casual observer would be like, wait a second, that doesn't match up.
Yeah.
It's literally blatant that they don't match. So I would just say that that's probably the big, the ugly of this one. Yeah. Iconic. I mean, we're talking about the second Godzilla film. What is the iconic part?
This is gonna be the first film where he is fighting another kaiju.
Yeah.
You know,
it's pretty big.
Yeah.
That's pretty iconic.
It's the first time Godzilla faces an opponent his own size.
It's true. Yeah, That's that's pretty much like the tagline of the movie, you know, like that's what it is he's fighting another kaiju. It's interesting to see him actually interacting with something his size. Yeah. Like kind of an equal threat.
Yeah. There's not a lot other that's iconic. Like most of the iconic stuff is brought over from the first. Mm-hmm. The classic roar, the stomp.
The opening
was
so good. I was just like, oh yeah, we're in for the second.
Yes,
we're in for something good.
It didn't start as black screen as the first one, but it did open right with his roar.
Yeah, that was the difference. Is the first one was like the stomps.
Yeah, the first one,
and then
built
it was
up.
The roar. This one, it started with the roar, and I was like,
yep, it's like
immediately hooked. Let's see what happens, and then the film that follows.
Yeah. Like they could have made it a short film.
They could have.
It would have been a bit better. Like there's a lot they could have cut.
Yeah, definitely. I'd say the iconic is like the actual fight between the two of them with the humans like shooting rockets and stuff.
Yeah.
We talked about how it felt a little bit like overkill, and you mentioned you were like, why don't you save all of your ammo to fight the one that wins?
Yeah, the winner's gonna be weakened.
You know,
like sure it's gonna take a bit longer for the fight to end, but you're also gonna have like this, like instead of fighting, like you're not fighting against two forces of nature, now you're just fighting against one.
Yeah.
Like you're not fighting an avalanche and a typhoon at the same time.
Right.
You let the typhoon take the avalanche away,
and then you fight the other one. Yeah. And there's a point to that, but I do have to say it is iconic because like you're actually seeing like the humans are trying to fight both of them. Yeah. And they do a really good job with like the little explosions and all of the things whizzing past the two of them. So it's just a huge like climactic cinematic movie. It's a true climax to the film.
Yeah.
But the problem is that it happens like
so
30
soon.
minutes into the film.
Yeah.
And so as a result, they're like, okay, now that this huge fight has happened, Godzilla does get away. We could have a second climax. I think that could probably work. And so they added a bunch of filler. Yeah. So, but I think the first fight is iconic. Yeah. It is worth seeing it just for that.
It gives him, it's what allows you to think of, oh, you know, he doesn't have to just fight against humans.
Right. He can fight other monsters, and the other thing is that the consequences of the atomic testing
are brought back in.
It's brought back in, and it is wider spread. It's like we're not just dealing with like a Godzilla, we're dealing with a second Godzilla, different Godzilla, and another creature has emerged. This is a big deal. This is a big issue. And it ties in with the theme really well from the first one. Yeah. But I think that they probably are working with less material. I haven't read the books, but
nor have I.
Yeah, I probably the second one's probably a lot shorter than the first one, I would imagine.
It could be, or it could just be a lot of the second one didn't translate well to film.
That's entirely possible too.
like you were saying with the difficulties of his shooting, like there could have been like multiple scenes. Like there could have been a part where Anguirus,
Yeah.
Acronosaurus,
Anguirus.
Anguirus,
Yeah, I think it's Anguirus.
like rampaged on his own.
Yeah.
Like he could have like gone off to one island, Godzilla not there yet, or gone to a different island.
And then part of the plot was probably let's try to get them.
Yeah, draw them to each other.
But instead they decided let's have one climactic fight because they have to build the entire set to be destroyed.
Destroyed. It's
destroyed.
A lot of modeling for a lot of model destruction.
Yeah, and that's a lot of work. So they probably went and were like, instead of having like 2 cities destroyed and then the third one where they fight in, let's just do 1 city, have them destroy that, and then we'll literally put another climax in. It's a lot easier, I think, to create the avalanche.
Yeah, the avalanche
climax.
is a lot easier because like here's a sloping cavern. Sloping valley.
Let's do some explosion shots.
Yeah.
And you can do those anywhere. And then we'll just bury them in ice.
Yeah.
They probably actually used ice, now that I think about it. It probably was just like large blocks of ice that they surrounded him with for this. I'm trying to think how they did it practically, because it's like it could have actually been ice, because that would have been a lot of fake like glass blocks to create.
That would have been heavy too.
Yeah.
If they have him in the middle, because there's a few, he probably wasn't in the middle for a lot of it.
He probably was in like a tank. I would imagine that, you create like a cylinder, you put him in so his head's out, and then you surround him with the ice. So he's not in danger, but you get the shot and it's like, oh yeah, he's buried in ice. Maybe that's kind of how they did it. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a lot of camera tricks. It is one of those things though where I think that they did a great job. They did a great job with what they had. It's just not. It doesn't have, I think, the substance of the first one.
Yeah, it's like I said earlier. It's again the heart.
Yeah,
like they still have the atomic bombs are bad. Like kind of throw into it, but they also kind of it just gets lost.
Yeah. And I liked the human characters. I liked their story. It was one of those things where it's like the film, I think, almost would have been better if it was just about their relationship and then Godzilla was just like this force of nature that happened in the background.
Yeah.
But make it very clear that it's about them. And instead of it being Godzilla raids again, it's... Yes, it is a Godzilla film, but we're focusing on...
human this time.
The humans. Which it could work. Speaking of things that could work, let's say that Toho comes and they say, we're thinking about making a sequel to Godzilla. Fights another monster. That's kind of the heart of it. Godzilla raids again.
Yeah.
How would you make this for a modern audience? What are things that you would adjust and change for it?
The thing is, with you could, like I was saying, with modern techniques and like what we have, we could expand upon the two creatures on two different, like trying to draw them together.
Mm-hmm.
We could draw their climax to closer to the end. So instead of like the two like one climax and then like the second climax, we could create one main climax.
Yeah.
So I'm saying you have them like maybe face off once at the beginning, and that's how you know both of them show up.
Well, yeah, that's how they did it in this one too.
Yeah, like this one. And then like they go separate. And like you were saying, they like try to draw them together.
Okay.
You can still have that human interaction in with it, but like they're doing this among like you're saying, where they're like Godzilla is a force of nature in the background. It's like there's still like the threat of Godzilla and the Anguirus.
Yeah.
But like there's still like their intimacy and like their relationships blooming within.
Yeah, I can see that. Let's see. If I had to do this, I would have probably a similar intro where it's just like they're kind of terrified, where they're like, "There's another one." It starts out probably about the same. I would probably make it a thing where they're purposely trying to get them to show up together.
Yeah.
Because they do go their separate ways, and they're like, oh, this is a huge issue because we have one task force and we only have so much resources. We hate to say it, but we have to
draw them in.
We have to draw them in. We have to draw them into one area. Yeah. And so there's a plan for them to be like, this is the safe zone. This is where we've created everything.
Yeah.
But what ends up happening is maybe we have a similar thing, you know, the jailbreak and all these things. So somebody like across the bay from the safe zone.
Yeah. Across from like the designated area.
Yeah. So things don't go according to plan and they do end up destroying a city. But the climax is like this huge city. And because it's unplanned and maybe there's something that happens where the task force isn't quite there yet.
Yeah.
The main characters of the story decide we need to do what we can.
Yeah.
Let's get in our planes and at least try to
draw
draw him away from the city center.
Yeah.
And maybe try to draw him back towards where the Godzilla forces are scrambling. Because they're not going to be able to like move all of their infrastructure that they put together from this side of the bay across to the other side of the bay.
Yeah.
So that's when they start flying around and trying to do these things. But we explain why they're being reckless, where it's like, I need to get closer to Godzilla. I need him to.
Yeah, I need him to follow the pony.
Yeah, exactly. So, and they're shooting flares and stuff like that because of the fire attraction and stuff like that. So when the friend gets hit, it's more of a emotional beat because it's like he did sacrifice himself. He's trying his best to do all of these things, and it's the civilians rising up to fight off this thing that's beyond them.
Yeah.
So I think that would work.
Yeah.
And it is just one climax, and maybe Godzilla and Anguirus fight and Godzilla wins, but he ends up
like, then you got your like he's definitely got like taken some hits. He might have like a wound or something that they're able to exploit.
Yeah, and he gets defeated by conventional weapons, and there's a talk when they're talking amongst themselves where they're like, conventional weapons haven't worked against him before, and then they stop and they're like, but he just fought something that's bigger.
And
he's wounded. Yeah, he's wounded. He has like in his scales, there's a huge tear.
Yeah.
Let's try to hit him in the heart through the scales, and or the friend literally gets hit by the atomic breath, but he pilots
steers in.
He steers into Godzilla, and that's and the
they might
wing is jutting out, something like that.
They probably try to avoid it back then, considering what just happened.
It's true. I mean, because literally World War II ended 10 years before, so they probably are like, let's not do the kamikaze sacrifice. But at the same time, both films have had the noble sacrifice suicide theme. So him getting hit and then ramming into Godzilla could work. Yeah. Maybe. I don't know.
It'd be a little bit of a... It'd be a little iffy, but like...
Well, I mean, for modern times, though.
Modern
if we're
times.
making it for like modern times, audience. Yeah, back then, I could see why they would do what they did, but modern audience, I think it's been long enough that people would be like, it's a noble sacrifice.
Yeah.
He didn't do it just because. It's like, no, he's been irradiated.
His plane's going down already.
He's going down already. He can't get out. He's on fire. You can even show it where it's like things are on fire and he's like, I can't get out. And he hits it and the wings like jutting out of Godzilla's neck.
Yeah.
And so it's like, now's our chance. We've scrambled enough. Let's try to hit him.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how you end it, is like he actually gets destroyed by conventional weapons, but it was like a literal kaiju battle on top of this plane running into him. That's the only, like, literally he had to exploit like 6 weaknesses in order for us to defeat him how we did. So that's kind of what I think I would do. And so not do like the climax slow into another. Such a lull. And the thing is that once you get interested in the characters, you forget it's a Godzilla movie.
Yeah.
And you're just like, okay, well, I want to see like what happened. Why are they calling him Mr. Groom? Why are they making fun of him so much? Does he actually have a girl? Like, what's like? I'd like to see more of that. And then it would have hit more too if we had actually met the girl. Like, they went on the first date, and he had his gift, and
then she showed up.
Yeah.
To the fishing house, because she knows he's out there, because he missed their date. So she showed up to find him.
Because she was actually interested in him, too.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't just, like, admiring from afar. It was like, no, it's like a mutual relationship. Like, and then, like, the last thing she sees is literally the plane get hit. And she's, like, watching as he...
Well, they were on a different island at that point. But, like, she could hear
but
him.
You know what I mean. Like,
she could hear over the radio, I've been hit. I'm going down. I'm going down,
but... I'm hit, like...
I'm taking him with me.
Yeah, I'm going to try to take him with me. And she's, like, on the radio trying to get him, but it's, like, gurgling in and out. And you just hear, like, maybe, like, I love you or something.
Yeah.
Like, or I've always admired you. You know, like, see?
We gave ourselves goosebumps.
Yeah, there you go. Emotional, peak, like, the choir comes in.
The choir.
Boom!
Yeah.
And we just see the friend, like, the flash over the... the windshield of the friend, and he's just in shock.
Yeah.
See? That's the power of cinema, like...
Yeah.
Goosebumps. Oh.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I did not get goosebumps at all during this one.
That's true. The first one was, like, half the film, I was, like...
Especially the choir.
Oh, my word. That scene. I was hoping they would repeat that. Like... Obviously, trope with the sequels where they do the exact same thing to try to get it. It doesn't work. But at the same time, even like a callback where they're all doing something, even if it's a different song or it's a different thing.
Or just like, it's just...
you can't underestimate the power of a choir track over a slow motion battle. It's a cinematic trope, but
it's a trope for a reason.
It works if you can do it right. Yeah. Like, even Godzilla 2014 does it. They have a bit of a choir track over slow-mo.
Okay.
Yeah, you haven't seen it yet, though.
I have not.
So we'll get there.
Eventually.
In 4 years. Speaking about getting to stuff, anything else you want to add, Pat?
Well, I think we've covered most of the bases, and I mean, I'm sure we're gonna think of something after we're actually done.
That's always that's always how it is. I'm sure that we'll have a lot of. Who knows? Maybe we'll start picking up and do like some podcasting and stuff like that about Godzilla in addition, and we'll start adding it to the playlist. But it'll not be because of the film. It'll be because we're just talking about it.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video of Godzilla Raids Again here on Cinema Revisited. We are doing this as a continuing series, and on top of that, we also watch the Universal Monster movies. That stuff's coming out right now. Okay. And then we do new movie reviews every Saturday. We do a podcast. We do bad movies and make fun of them.
Yep.
Just movies in general. We love movies, so if you love movies, you probably like this channel.
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. So consider subscribing if you haven't already. Otherwise, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Leave us a like if you like this content, because we want to give you what you guys want, not just what we enjoy doing. Tell you what you really want. Right. Anyway, guys, it was a lot of fun. Hope that we see you guys in the next one.